Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR. Today it is October 31st, Halloween. I came dressed as the man they call Meathead, joined by Matthew Thomas and the video or the snapshot of Linda Kay. Matthew, tell us what you're doing, and then Linda, tell us what the hell's going on with your video.
So I'll jump in. Linda is dressed as a mugshot. She's dressed as a criminal because she's got the mugshot up there.
Yes, I was gonna say I am a cheetah.
What city are you in, Linda?
I am heading back home to Wisconsin. I had quite the days down in the Ville this past week as we were on the road to No Rest for the Wicked.
On the road again.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't wait to get on the road again.
Yeah, so we had our go home show on Thursday, and then the pay-per-view No Rest for the Wicked Saturday night. So just kind of trekking along, if you will, on my travelers, as you do call me the road warrior. So
That's
just
right.
living up to it.
Okay. Well, tell me really what's happening down in OVW. Any big news? Anything popping? How's is the newest Rockers made an appearance yet down there?
The newest rockers of the Fanny Pack Kid, Cal Hero, and Leaf Cassidy have not made an appearance down at OVW, but we had the return of the Nightmare Cup Tag Team Tournament take place, and if you recall last year,
Yeah, I remember.
Our good pal Cal, and Dustin Jackson, the Fan Pack Party, were the recipients of the Nightmare Cup trophy last year. But so we had a tournament this year. It was very unique. It led up to the pay-per-view on Saturday, where the tag teams were put together by random. So it was fun. Think of like a spin wheel. Think of like a lottery where
And the wheel make a deal.
Where random tag teams were put together. So in the quarterfinals match, Cal was teamed up with Big Money Dimes. Ooh. And they did win that match. So they were part of the pay-per-view in the semifinals. So the way it worked this year was the random tag teams that were put together. Whoever wins the finals of the Nightmare Cup Tag Team Tournament would then face each other same night to then face our OVW. He's both the national and heavyweight champion, but you would get to face Cash Flow for the OVW heavyweight championship same night.
He just beat Cowboy James Storm.
Yeah,
right?
That was, to become the dual champ. So that's how that works. Kind of made something very unique for the Nightmare Cup tournament this year. So that being said, unfortunately, our pal Cal did not win in the semifinals round, but the Outrunners took that, and they, in essence, had 3 matches in one night. So in the end, Cashflow retained, but just wanted to highlight the unique Nightmare Cup tournament and keeping it alive down there at OVW. But I will say, gentlemen, I know I sent you guys a photo of this, but I have yet to post the video of this this past Thursday night, the go home show.
Linda, those videos are safe for work, right? I mean, I don't want you posting anything that the kids can't watch.
No, it is safe. As a matter of fact, you could still catch the replay on Fight TV.
Okay.
It would be last Thursday's OVW TV, where it was our special Halloween night, the costume night, the dress up night. Myself and my co-ring announcer, Eric Cornish, we went as Eric Bear and the Linda Taker.
Linda Taker, my breath away. Nice.
Yeah, so that was cool. And you got, guys, I was not aware we would get our own in-ring or behind the curtain entrances for both hours of the show. We got the full pomp and circumstance. We got the lights. We got the smoke. We got the close up. And I did master my eye roll.
Nice.
I'm afraid.
Oh yeah, it was on point too. Not me. That was not mine.
That was Eric's. Yes, Matthew.
No, I'm afraid to roll my eyes. I'm afraid they'll get stuck that
way. You've had some parents tell you that, huh?
I mean, I can't prove that it's not true.
Well, we can't prove that it's not true either. You know what also is true? It's true is I apologize for not being around last week. There were some random balloons floating around in the city of Milwaukee and Waukesha last weekend.
You got a little helium or something stuck in your throat.
Got something stuck in. So
man.
It is what it is. Linda, I know that you're still traveling and you've got to move on. Anything else you need to let us know before you head out the door?
Well, I am excited for Crown Jewel this weekend. I know that is part of our PWR
It is a qualifying event.
weekly fantasy giraffe, so I will make sure to stay up to date on that. Looking forward to chatting all things wrestling, the gentlemen, next week as well as we do PWR weekly. But as you just mentioned, I gotta get back on the road. But I appreciate this time with you two. This lovely.
And Linda, you know, this face is
weekend.
clean. So next week, I don't know where we're going to be at 6 days in, but it's that time of year again. Oh.
Absolutely.
With this video option, we get to watch the steady progression of your hair.
Yes.
And I don't know because, again, you know, I don't want to lie on the air, but I don't know if my wife has told anybody how much she loves my mustache. We might push this thing out to Christmas.
Tremendous. All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Looking forward to chatting.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah,
later in
thank
the
you,
week.
Linda, for stopping by. Matthew, you and I are going to go over the week's events and what's happening this coming Saturday. It's going to be Crown Jewel live on the Peacock, the premium live event. But first off, let us talk about a little bit of news here. This is kind of unique. It's something AEW does all the time. It's something TNA does all the time. But the WWE allowing one of their talents to actually wrestle outside of their promotion. The Great Muta and Shinsuke Nakamura will be wrestling on day one-ish, otherwise known as the New Year 2023 singles match between Muta and Shinsuke Nakamura. This is from Noah Professional Wrestling. Matthew, your thoughts on Shinsuke outside of WWE getting a big-time match?
I'm glad to see it. I mean, AEW has kind of kicked that door down. You know, Impact has done it, and there's a new regime in WWE, and I don't think this is it's untraditional for WWE, but I don't think this is a huge surprise. I mean, there were rumors a few weeks back that there were talks about Billy Gunn actually being part of, the DX reunion. It seemed like some stuff was potentially in the works there. So we're in a different time period than we were, a decade or two ago. So this is, I think, a big deal for WWE, but I think it's probably going to be the first of many.
Thoughts on the match? Who's winning that? Is it Muta? Is it Shinsuke?
You got a great name in Muta, but I mean, Shinsuke, the veteran that he is, I guess by comparison, is the new up and comer. So Shinsuke takes it here, and I hopefully this will kind of help Shinsuke's brand a little bit. In WWE, Shinsuke, I think a lot of people. We've had some great matches, but I don't think he's had this WWE run like a lot of people thought he would have when he came into the company. And I would kind of like to see this as a potential shot in the arm for maybe, revamping a little bit of Shinsuke's WWE run.
Well, Shinsuke was a former, I think, two-time NXT champion, a former WWE champion, a Royal Rumble winner. So it's not like he's been sloughing off, right? He's done a couple things. He's got some stuff done, but let's see what happens with Shinsuke Nakamura. Last week on Raw, we're just going to touch on it real quick. Matthew, it started off with Bobby Lashley calling out Brock Lesnar at the beginning of the show. And for the first time in my memory, Bobby Lashley not looking like a bitch. And he destroyed Brock Lesnar through the table.
Yeah, great segment to start the show. I mean, this was a high profile, two big professional wrestlers going at it, man, and a great way to get things started off. And I'm really interested in this feud. We got a little taste of it at the beginning of the year, but it was kind of in the orbit of a lot of other stuff that was going around that title at the time. This, I think, to just have the only thing with this, I do wish you potentially had this thing on U.S. soil, because I think the crowd reaction in the U.S. for this match would be outstanding. Not to say we don't get a rematch. But I would really, because I think people are starting to really appreciate what we've got here, and these two behemoths going at it. And that was a fantastic professional wrestling segment.
On Dynamite, actually, let's talk about NXT. Matthew, I know that you and Linda had done the NXT recap for such a long time. You say that there was a barn burner in the main event. I watched it, but honestly, with so much what we watched throughout the week, I don't remember it. Tell me what happened in the main event on NXT.
NXT bookended it with some really good segments. We had the women's tag title to open the show. We've got new tag champions in Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark, and then JD McDonough and Dragunov going at it in the main event. A very non-traditional WWE match. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch this. A very, very stiff / strong style match here on NXT. This harkened back to NXT 1.0 or Black and Gold, whatever you wanted to call it. I personally have not seen anything like this on NXT since the NXT 2.0 period that we had for about a year there. Go out of your way to watch this. And also, too, I think probably the big news to note from this, we've got a new member in Joe Gacy's stable. None other than, and the name is escaping me now, but it's Dwayne The Rock Johnson's daughter. We've got The Rock's daughter on NXT now with our buddy Joe Gacy.
Wow. So Rain, what is her name? It's Rain something.
Yeah, Rain something. We'll get around to that, but really a newsworthy NXT, and this was probably the best NXT episode that I've seen in a year. I mean, you can watch them kind of transition back. They don't want to take away the whole NXT 2.0 visual, but I mean, we're definitely a different color scheme now. We're back a little bit to the black and gold, but I think you just got to watch how they are presenting wrestling. You still have your sports entertainment style characters that you had in NXT 2.0 that you necessarily didn't have in the original incarnation, but they're trying to blend the best of both worlds. And I think Tuesday they did a really, really good job.
Ava Rain coming out from underneath the yellow mask.
Yeah.
And now a part of Joe Gacy's little group. So she's debuted. There was talk she may even debut as a member of the Bloodline.
Yeah. Ooh.
So that not happening as of today. Things can always change. But Ava Rain now in NXT. Let's get to Dynamite from last week and kind of run down things here. Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia, the Ocho and the pure champion Daniel Garcia, took on Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. Are you uncomfortable yet with William Regal talking about Excalibur on commentary?
I just don't know how much more you can progress it. Okay, we've been getting months upon months of it, and I don't know where it goes.
I would take you like a saltine and let you melt in my mouth.
Yeah, I think that was the exact. That's yeah. It's I mean, it's funny initially, but it's just Where does it progress to?
One of those wrestling weddings, I guess. I don't know. Your thoughts on Renee Paquette and the glue that she has become as far as Dynamite in the segments?
What was interesting this past week, so many of her interviews were people talking about Moxley. And I just wonder, where does this go? Do we eventually have that, become a storyline? Do we eventually have her attacked by some dastardly heel? It just really, really dawned on me, like, it seemed the bulk of the interviews that she was doing last week were in regards to the AEW champion. And I just wonder, with us leaning into that so early, how that is going to be presented going down the road.
I have a question for you. Were you aware that the gorilla position in AEW is not called the gorilla position?
No, the Mongo position, right?
The Mongo position. Is that named after Steve Mongo McMichaels?
That was the first thought, but I mean,
I don't think it is.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, are you naming it because the gorilla position, like, oriented because that's where gorilla was typically situated, right?
Well, Gorilla Monsoon, that was his position.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, unless there was an era of WCW that I'm unaware of where Mongo had, backstage duties like that, it didn't make
the only duties that he had were his little dog pooping on commentary.
Yeah. Now, I mean, the other thing, like, you can name it whatever you want to name it. And so, I mean, maybe they chose to name it after, but yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only wrestling Mongo that comes to mind, Meathead.
AEW World Tag Team Championship #1 contenders match. This was a banger. FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Hardwood took on Swerve and Our Glory, Keith Lee, and Swerve Strickland. the Guns sitting ringside dressed as FTR was pretty damn funny to me.
Yeah.
The winners of the match, I cannot believe it's Swerve and Her Glory. They're going to go into a third match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, fantastic match. One of the best matches of the week on TV. I just wonder if they're telling a little bit of an overly complicated story with FTR right now. They've got all that hardware. They've got the 3 belts, but there's the story. They don't have the AEW title, and they are featured predominantly on AEW television. It's just, to me, it is a representation of just kind of how convoluted AEW can become with all these different promotions and these different titles. And I think you're getting FTR out there. They're getting the response they get because they're FTR. People enjoy watching them wrestling. I think you're kind of losing if you're trying to tell this long game of them trying to, capture the AEW tag titles. I don't think you're really there. It's just, it's a little strange, the story they're trying to tell with FTR, in the titles. And I think it just kind of embodies, this like, all right, so they got 6 belts total, but none of them are the brand's title that you're watching.
Here's the good thing about AEW. They have multiple threads going on. There's 2 stories in this match here. There's a story of FTR and not being the number 1 guys, top guys in the AEW. And then there's the story of Swerve and Her Glory. What is Keith Lee doing compared to what Swerve's doing? And then the interaction between them and I almost said the Ass Boys. No, not the Ass Boys, the Acclaimed, because everybody loves the Acclaimed.
Yeah, no, and you've got that line going on there too. You've got, your most over tag team, your most over people in AEW right there watching this happen. So, and I don't see the titles going off of them anytime soon.
No.
Because, they're probably moving more merch right now than anybody in AEW. They are the zeitgeist of wrestling. Yeah. So unless, here's the only thing. If FTR wants some of that action, only solution is they start scissoring.
Yikes. Renee Paquette interviewing MJF on stage. He is doing the stereotypical tropes that a face does, even though he's still trying to be him. Are we being swerved? Because the line that I hear all the time with MJF is that he is, he's the devil, right? What was the devil's greatest trick? Making you believe that he didn't exist.
Right.
So at the end of the day, is he going to pretend that this is all, or is he going to tell us that this was all just a work to get us to believe that he didn't exist?
I don't know. There's several ways you can look at that. You've got the greatest heel in wrestling.
He's not a heel right now.
Yeah, just let him be a heel. Let him do his thing. Let him be a heel. Meathead, I'm going to throw this out there. I think this is reactionary booking based on everything that happened with Punk and the Elite. If we had Punk in the company, if we had Omega, if we had the Bucks, who are most likely on their way back, I don't think we would be seeing this whole thing. MJF, I think, has been featured more prominently than he would if those other threads were going on. We see him. We see a promo each week. We see him, up there with his chip, all the time. I think this is a little bit of a different. Now, it could very well be a temperature check on how he's going to do as a babyface. And
was that a Frank Cosentino temperature check?
Reference, absolutely. Or, it's the holiday season, man. You're going to need to check the temperature in your turkey to make sure you don't have food poisoning,
Well, you don't want to stick the stuffing in too early. So
no, you don't. The stuffing shouldn't even be in a turkey. The stuffing should be enjoyed by itself as its own thing, man. That's the main event of your Thanksgiving right there, is the stuffing. But to get back to MJF, could you turn him loose right now, Meathead, as this character and have him be a top babyface? I think you could. I don't think it's the right move. And I think you bring up a really good point. This kind of, my goodness, this guy is so good as a potential babyface, but are we being swerved? I think that's what they want you to keep in mind.
Well, we're in our glory, that's for sure.
That's right.
That was a pun. All right, let's continue on. American Dragon, Bryan Danielson took on the Spanish God, Sammy Guevara. Bryan Danielson with the big win. I loved the backstage that they did when Danielson came back. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
With the Blackpool Combat Club. The friction in the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't think we're going to get any breakup of this group at any point. I think that's just them motivating each other more.
You know what I'd like to see, kind of going back to WCW when they stripped all the titles and hit the reset button. I think we should have a
New
storyline.
Blood Day. I remember it.
We should have an AEW storyline where every faction breaks up and everybody goes their own way. There's no factions anymore. It just all happens within an episode or two, and everybody's, and then because everybody, needs a new faction, everybody's trying to get their own faction started. And
So it's like Rush Week.
Yeah.
Everybody's pledging to new groups.
Rush Week, or like, a few weeks before the homecoming dance when everybody's trying to, I thought though TNA Impact did that a while back. They had like that mixed tag tournament. Everybody was trying to find dates to the mixed tag tournament.
Apparently, yeah. Main event was John Moxley taking on Penta El Zero Miedo with Alex Abrahantes for the AEW World Championship. Moxley wins. Now I'm going to sneeze, and you tell me about the match.
I'm really just kind of waiting to see what kind of sneeze it's going to be. If it's going to be it. Well, I guess he's not going to sneeze on air, so we don't get to find out what kind of sneeze that was. But now let me ask you this, Meathead. I think kind of with the way we went off the air, I don't know that we would have gotten another championship match this week if not for the unfortunate incident with Paige. Paige, so this kind of seemed like, all right, let's give him another title match here. Moxley with the win. And I think we went to further set up some storylines from here.
Yeah, here comes the Firm to attack Moxley, thinking they're doing MJF a favor. MJF is conflicted, comes down, stops the Firm from doing it, and he gets attacked for his troubles. So, as far as we're being fed on live TV, MJF now a face.
Yeah, I want to say this. I think whatever we've gotten here may actually be them trying to correct having MJF associated with the Firm from the start. Yeah. Now, we talked about it when it happened. It's like, all right, this guy's a heel. I guess he's going to get other people to do his bidding. But to me, it never seemed like a solid fit. My goodness, if there's anybody who doesn't need a mouthpiece in professional wrestling, it's this guy. So this all.
But he was never. They were never a mouthpiece. They were muscle. They were muscle.
This might just be a way to kind of separate him. And now, honestly, man, we could get to the match at Full Gear and see the Firm come out and beat down Moxley. And that's how because I think there's a potential long game here of having the fans want to cheer MJF and think this is a quasi face turn, get invested, and then he pulls the rug out from under him. And he's, that much more of a heel. I think that's a possibility.
Yep. And that's kind of leads to what I led with, which was, the Devil's greatest trick was making us believe that he didn't exist at all. So let's talk SmackDown from last Friday, and it's Howdy Doody time with Uncle Howdy. Matthew, I'm very invested in the Bray Wyatt story, the White Rabbit, the QR codes, the whole thing. This was a bit of a miss for me on the presentation of Uncle Howdy. Here's where I had a problem with it. The camera shots underneath. Yeah. I'm trying to get a look at this dude, right? And I can't even focus on him. It's too fast, too much. Go ahead.
I think the reason they're doing that is precisely because they do not want you to get a look at him. I think that Uncle Howdy is going to be a variation of Bray Wyatt, or Bray Wyatt's mind. And this is actually a story that's being told about, Bray Wyatt fighting his own demons. Now, what this looks like is an actual match. If this is a cinematic match where Bray Wyatt fights Uncle Howdy, I have no idea what the payoff, where they're going to from here. But I think, as much as it didn't land with you, I think they are trying to make it as unsettling as possible. And, I don't think they wanted a negative response from the viewers, but I think they wanted a bit of a confused response.
The QR code in the video package when Uncle Howdy debuted was just a picture of Bray Wyatt with the word liar written across his face over and over. So the story continues. I'm there for the next chapter of it. Also on SmackDown, there was an open challenge, and Matthew, who debuted for us on WWE SmackDown that we haven't seen in about a minute?
Had a returning Emma. That's right. We had seen her do a lot of work on the independent scene and Impact as of late as to Neil Dashwood, but a returning Emma on WWE SmackDown answering Ronda's open challenge. Not picking up the win, unfortunately, but yet another member of the growing women's division in WWE.
Yeah, and you know it's ironic. They mentioned it in commentary. Emma, the first ever Australian to debut in WWE. Now it seems like there's a freeway. There
That
seems like it's an express lane back and
that
forth between
that
Australia and
surprised me.
America.
Like every fourth person in WWE is from Australia,
Right.
and I had no idea it was going back to that recent past of her being the first one to debut.
Yeah, she was. Matter of fact, she's been around so long. She was in Florida Championship
Yeah.
Wrestling, which was the precursor to NXT. Now, if you've been watching Dark Sides from the Territory or Tales from the Territories, Matthew, have you been watching?
Yes, I believe I'm current.
We got the story of Championship Wrestling from Florida, and that is really where NXT comes from. They kept the territory there and turned it into a WWE territory. Matthew, I want to sidetrack here real quick here while we're talking about Tales from the Territories. We've had 4 episodes so far. I've loved every single one of them. 2 of them based in Memphis. I mean, we
Yeah.
had the Memphis territory, and then we did a side solo episode on Andy Kaufman. Then we got to my real hometown, the AWA, and then finally Championship Wrestling from Florida. Pick a favorite out of the 4. Which one is yours?
Episode number 3. This would have been AWA, and the story of Mad Dog Vachon, which actually that story started in Waukesha, I believe. It was actually an event they were wrestling from Waukesha.
You're getting them crossed up.
Emma,
Ken Patera. The story for Ken Patera in the McDonald's is in Waukesha.
with Patera story. Okay.
Yeah. No, the Mad Dog one was somewhere in Wisconsin, but the Ken Patera story. So the building that you and I go to every year for Blizzard Brawl, that Linda goes to, that your sister got to visit for the first time, right? This building may have been the building they wrestled at. It might have been a high school somewhere in the area, but we drove past that McDonald's. I forgot to tell you guys that. We drove past the Ken Patera McDonald's.
I don't know, man. The Patera story is a close second. I mean, but it's hard to beat Vachon opening the door on a plane, Like,
yeah.
and the amount of substances that guy said to have consumed during that
I'm gonna fly.
I mean, so if you're not watching this, man, definitely get on it. A much easier accessible series than Dark Side of the Ring. I mean, there's some dark stuff in here, but
there's also some brown stuff in this episode too.
Oh yeah, and if you've got if you've got a weak stomach, I do caution you, because I think it goes back to the plane and it goes back to Mad Dog Vachon, man. So some really stomach turning stuff as well too. But I really like the roundtable segment, and it's a much. I'm glad Vice. Not that I don't want to see Dark Side of the Ring return, but I think this was kind of a good holdover,
a little bit lighter
from some of the dark stuff that we've seen. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we started off in episode 1 with Jerry Jarrett pulling a guy's eyeball out. Remember? I mean, every one of these episodes talk old school wrestling where somebody's coming to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Where the fans ain't taking it. We got Greg Gagne talking about the shits. I mean, literally and wrestling match wise.
Firearms discharged. I mean, people getting shot at wrestling events. So I guess it's not a lot lighter, but
I absolutely have enjoyed everything I've seen so far with Tales from the Territories. That brought to us by The Rock and his, I think it's $7 productions or $7.
I cannot quite recall the production studio.
$7. Speaking of Young Rock, it will be now debuting this Friday night. It has been moved to Fridays on NBC. Matthew, your thoughts of being buried on Fridays?
Is it being buried, or is he trying to kick back off kind of a TGIF type of feel,
Or are they counter programming?
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't necessarily want to counter program SmackDown, though, would he?
He's trying. Well, it's not Rock programming; it's NBC programming. Yeah. And let's go back into SmackDown real quick. How you feeling? Are you feeling oozy?
Oh my goodness, what an outstanding segment there. I've never seen
Have you ever seen Roman and everybody else crack at the same time?
I've never cracked for that long. You've seen people crack, but normally it's a smile. My goodness, poor Jay had to bury his head. Roman knew exactly what he was doing. He kept trying to, I think there might be some fan shot stuff of Solo. I really wanted to see Solo's reaction too. during this whole thing. But this was such an outstanding segment in the fact that you got to see him break a little bit. You got to see the fans respond and appreciate it for what it was.
Yeah.
And my goodness, Sami Zayn is probably the most over person in the WWE right now.
Let me ask you one thing to go
Yeah.
along with this. Is it too much? Is Sami a court jester? And are we forgetting that Sami can go?
Not yet. And I don't know where you go with the ultimate payoff. I think the trick to this is actually featuring him in some high profile stuff. Give us that from time to time. Give us Sami in singles matches, and let us remember this. Like not quite there, but this is almost a little reminiscent of the Yes Movement,
Yes.
of the groundswell that we got.
Yes.
And O'Brien and WWE not necessarily having plans to put the title on this guy, but I mean, let me ask you this: do we have such a groundswell under Sami at this point that maybe plans change, and this is the guy to take it off of Roman?
No.
I'm just throwing that. Out there. I'm just throwing that out there. So I'm kind of like the Bray Wyatt stuff. I'm along for the ride here. And I want to say this. I think you've gotten the whole Sami thing has made the bloodline much more popular as well, too, because I think people would have kind of gotten tired of the bloodline stuff at this point.
Right.
You were at a point where you've got the Usos with such a long title reign. You've got Roman with such a long title reign.
That head snap when he says, I don't give a damn what the tribal chief says.
Oh, and let me here. This was shot so well too. The production value was so great on the tight shot on Roman's face, and also too the kind of corner shot with how you had Sami in the background when they were talking about the name change.
You know who else was great in this too? The fans.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You had that, and then you had them basically kind of do. You had the fans that round of applause mid-segment for them breaking character. The fans saw it for what it was, appreciated it for what it was. And I'll tell you another little small thing that I like too. I don't ever remember Heyman or anybody ever sending anybody to now a paid ad from our sponsors from in ring. Like he counted them down to the commercial break.
1. Yep, it was pretty good. Let's talk Rampage from Friday night. And first off, we had an eliminator match. It is now Moxley again, wrestling technically on the same night against Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, Cool Hand, Angelo Parker. Moxley with an easy victory, and then gets called out for another match. You're right. With the disappearance of a bunch of these talents, Punk, Omega, the Bucks, all these guys being gone, Hangman and Page, is Moxley just stuck working over and over and over?
Yeah, and I think you run overexposure of your champion, and I think that's kind of what they're going for. I mean, he is the fighting champion, but I think you run the risk of potentially having that title either defended or having these eliminator matches, because here's the perception: people know that Rampage is filmed the same night as Dynamite. It's like, all right, this guy's working twice, in the same night there. But I want to say this, and I think with me, and maybe it's the case with a lot of people, I don't know, but this Moxley title reign, with all the events that preceded it, it's landing a lot different. I was not a fan of the last reign where Moxley's bleeding, during every match.
Licking blood and pizza cutters.
Right. And I think we've pulled back on that a little bit, but there's also a little bit of this appreciation as Moxley being the guy there for AEW as a lot of these, because I think the Punk thing let a lot of the air out of the sails for a lot of people. And, the cool thing with Moxley is he's proven to be that workhorse for AEW, but he's also proven to be a guy that came from WWE that has put the company on his back. And I think it's a strong...
Remember, he was supposed to be on vacation.
Yeah. He's supposed to be fishing or something right now.
Something like that. Moxley Fishing Corporation. So Lee Moriarty now getting a title shot this coming Wednesday on Dynamite, because he got to call him out. Limitless Keith Lee took on Serpentico, and... basically, this was a boom, boom, boom match. Now, apparently Swerve had, Daddy Ass, Billy Gunn, tied up, and he's playing with his fingers in the back. He doesn't want him scissoring anymore. So the Acclaimed come out, call him out. Where's our daddy? Where's our daddy ass? And apparently it's been Swerve. Are they going to bust up the team of Swerve and their glory?
I hope so, because I think these are two strong single talents here that really haven't gotten that single run in AEW. I want to see that happen. And I think, these are two very, very prominent individuals that I think need to get that singles push.
Yeah. Let's talk about the main event. It was the TNT Championship. Wardlow and the Kingdom's Matt Taven with Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett. Wardlow wins Powerbomb Symphony. Here's what happens afterwards. It starts with the beatdown, and then here comes Samoa Joe. Here comes the rest of the embassy. I believe it's Brian Cage and the what are they called? The Agony of Fear, Face of Agony, or something like that. What's the name of the tag team?
That sounds right. We'll go Faces of Agony.
Gates of Agony. Gates of Agony. Prince Nana, out of nowhere, joining the embassy is wait for it. Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah, here's my takeaway, man. I like factions, but they seem to be overdoing it a little bit with factions right now. And that's largely, I think, because of the talent roster. And you need to get people kind of like where in most years you find something for somebody doing WrestleMania to get that payday. I feel like that's happening in AEW all the time now.
Yeah,
because you just don't have enough TV time. Now, the other thing that I think they could do to cut down on this a little bit, Dark and Elevation for the most part are just enhancement matches. You're almost at a point where you need to.
Well, they're at that point already. Some of those talents are leaking down to Dark and Elevation.
Yeah. You're almost at a point where you need to start perpetuating some storylines on there. But then again, it's like that type of stuff, if you are making that must see, how much effort do you want to require from your audience to go out and find this other material? So they're stacked, they're loaded, and I think they're at a point where, with 3 hours of TV a week, you're having a little hard time making it all make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize, folks. Anytime you see it go blank, I'm not losing connection. I just don't feel like, on the camera. So if I can reach the mic and mute and
you're taking a hit off of one of those balloons is what you're doing.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what it is. Let's talk the premium live event this Saturday. It is going to be the crown jewel. Let's go through the matches. Okay. First off, we've got for the main event, Roman Reigns and One Punch Logan Paul. All Logan Paul is, apparently they've booked him to the point where he should be able to win, but he's got a chance because all he needs is one punch. This is terrible character build, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I think that there's a reason that this is probably not taking place on U.S. soil. I think you can probably get away a little bit with the novelty factor of this in your WWE Championship match in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I don't see any way he's taking it off of Roman, and it's a special attraction match.
Speaking of a special attraction, that's really, as you said, it should be on United States soil. Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar. This is a grudge match.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No belts involved either, which is amazing.
And it doesn't need it. It absolutely doesn't need it. I could really see this go, both ways. A lot of it involves how relevant you want to keep Brock. How much do you plan on using Brock in the next few months?
Brock is Teflon.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he loses.
But how much do you want to feature him, coming up? Here's what I want to see. I want to see Brock actually pick up the win here, and us get a rematch here on U.S. soil and have the crowd behind a super over Lashley. And I want to see Lesnar win, and I want to see him win not clean, because I want to see the fans get behind that groundswell of Bobby.
Okay. The OC and the Judgment Day in a 6-man tag.
Yeah, I think you see
Dominic Mysterio with the pinfall victory.
Yeah, my goodness. I think AJ and the OC need something right here. So I'm going to say OC.
Okay. Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross now in a steel cage.
Drew needs to get it back. I see Drew picking up the win here.
Okay. Big man, Braun Strowman, Omos.
Braun. Absolutely. Braun's been back. I think this is your time to feature Braun here.
The undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, the Usos, will take on the Brawling Brutes.
Yeah, as much as the Brawling Brutes have been fun and they've gotten a lot of the fans behind them, I don't think there's any way Usos are dropping the titles here.
The Raw Women's Championship, Bianca Belair versus Bayley in a last women's standing match.
She's going to drop to Bayley at some point. And I think that you've got a last woman standing match. You have got Bayley with a stable. You know, you can have as much interference here as you want to. And I think Bayley wins that title, via interference from Damage Control.
Well, via your last comments there, I'm going to count us out to the end of this program, a la Paul Heyman. So, Matthew Thomas, the accounting firm at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe will be tallying up the points for the premium live event of Crown Jewel. Don't forget, folks, 12 Eastern, 11 a.m. Central this Saturday on the Peacock. So for Linda Kay, wherever the hell she is now, for Matthew Thomas on the Man They Call Meathead, thanks for stopping by. We will talk to you guys next week with all the breakdown. So long, everyone.